I'm not like other guys. I can tell that you have played it safe your whole life. So let's get naughty and break a couple rules tonight. Sneak in a movie no one will ever know. Then run on private property and hold each other close. Beneath the moonlight, I've got a fun idea. Lean and kiss a cheek and gently whisper in your ear. Let's steal a car tonight. Commit a felony with me and dog until the sunrise. Let's steal a motherfucking car tonight. Be young and alive. So let's commit some crimes. Hey, I like you. I got your flowers. Let's get some coffee. Look deep in my eyes and tell me about your family. We can hold hands, then you can watch me shoot cocaine into my eyes and rock a family. Let's steal some art tonight. What's a few Picassos when you're on a sexy date high? Let's steal some precious fucking art tonight. Young and alive. And cross some state lines.
Or, you know, we could go a little more traditional. Go for a walk, watch a movie. Actually, there's a really nice flower exhibit at the Botanical Gardens. Ninja Brian was just telling me about that last week. He loved it. Wait, you know what? Fuck it!
Let's kill some guy tonight. We're holding hands and laughing while we shank 'em in the starlight. Let's take a motherfucking life tonight. Young and alive. Which I can see for that guy. Yeah. Let's kill 5 guys tonight. The cherry cola while we blast a savage drive-by. Let's kill 10 guys tonight.
You know what? First date, let's pump the brakes on the murders.
Let's kill 5 guys tonight. I'll take you back to your place and we'll craft a perfect alibi. Man, we had fun tonight. We're young and alive. And you can call me anytime.
Good first date. Want to do it again next week? No? Oh, all right.
When I was just a young man, I was wandering in the rain. Got struck by lightning in the junk, fell to the ground in pain. But when I woke the next morning, I witnessed something odd. My nuts were supercharged with glowing power from the gods. They were thunder and lightning, loads of massive strength and size. Thunder and lightning, powered spheres from beyond the skies. Swords of might made of radiant light. Thunder and lightning. I now had a new calling. I was destined to fight crime. No man could escape the justice my meaty clackers could provide. So I bought them a little unitard and found them a tiny cave. Then ran to the city's toughest gang and screamed there's no escape from the wrath of thunder and lightning. Just that fell from an angel's crown. Thunder and lightning. Rounded junk that'll take you down. Stones of war, tiny hammers of Thor. Thunder and lightning. One with the power to electrify, one with the strength to smash. First you hear that rumble, baby, and then you see the flash. My loins are filled like darkened clouds, evil has no chance. All shall tremble before the storm that gathers in my pants. Turns out being struck by lightning doesn't give you any powers. They caved my head in with a pipe and beat me for several hours. But as I lay there half conscious, with my nuts exposed to air, I looked up to the blackened sky and said an ancient prayer.
If you're there, please infuse my nuts with the power of 1,000 suns. Holy shit, you're real?
Let there be thunder and lightning. Acorn shot from the tree of life. Thunder and lightning. High voltage guns lighting up the night. Mighty balls gifted from Odin's house. Thunder and lightning.
Suck 'em!
Are we live? Yes, so we are live! Hello, everybody, and welcome to a classic Saturday stream, where today we are continuing on ahead with talking Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, we have a story time today, a full stream story time, to make up for our loss of D&D last week, to watch me try to play Dark Souls for a bit. But with that, we actually have a quick announcement. I talked about it at the beginning of my last stream, but just to make sure that information is getting out to all of you. Coming up, as we're getting closer and closer to the holidays, I realized I had a bit of PTO saved up, and unfortunately, the company I work for does not let any of your PTO carry over from one year to another. Shalom to you too, Marcial. So, I'm afraid I have to find a way to burn it all before the year ends. So, I've already submitted most of my days, and for the last week of December, I'm going to be going home and seeing my family. But I also have every Friday off between now and then. So I think we'll be able to find a way to squeeze in maybe an extra stream in the coming weeks so that we can have Mass Effect, Dark Souls, and D&D each week for you all. And hopefully that will help make up for probably my time with my family that I might not be able to stream for. Burn it. Burn all the vacation days. Exactly. Though I do have one more day I need to put in somewhere. So I just have to think about where to take this one extra day off. But that is all of the announcements for today. So all that's left is a quick question of, how are you all doing? How have your weeks been? How are your weekends shaping up? Is there any big news out there coming up pretty soon? Actually, I think there's something I need to share with you all. A little bit of artwork before the stream gets started from somewhere in chat. Somebody having a bit of art to do with this D&D campaign that I think looks absolutely amazing, and that I believe you all deserve to get a look at. I baked today. Hell yeah, Marcia. What'd you make? Now let's see here into D&D. Yeah, well, we'll just save that there. I am doing amazing. Hell yeah, Canadan. Glad to hear you're having a lot of fun with what you've been up to. Playing drums, yeah? Is that a hobby for a job? What's that about? Today I did all right, but made some mistakes at work. But I did get off early. Not because of the mistakes, right, little pink? You didn't make a mistake and they're like, "Hey, how about you take the rest of the day off?" Cuz that might be a problem. All right, let's see if I can find this image now. All right. Give this a little bit of a save. Now let's see if I can... Can I grab it in this format? Because I might not be able to grab it, actually. I might have to convert this into a JPEG. All right, y'all. Sorry about this. 1 second. Just need to... get something put together so that you all could take a look at Marciel's artwork here. And here, save this as a bit of a torch. Now let's browse saved images. Take me to the T's. All right. Oh, that is scaled poorly. I'm sorry, y'all. So today, before we actually get into the story time, I wanted to share some fucking fan art that Marciel made of one of the D&D characters. As you guys can see, this is our Wood Elf Tortuga. Wood Elf Monk Tortuga. The boy who jumps off buildings, one-shots bad guys, and always finds himself in the thick of combat due to his high speed and low care for personal safety. So, Marcial, thank you so much for making the artwork. It looks absolutely amazing, and I fucking love it. Lord. Nah, I have some artists in my D&D party, and every time that they go out of their way to make artwork content of any kind for the campaign, I just get all fucking DM squee going. Just feeling so excited and ready to go. But, with speaking of getting ready to go, I think it's time that we all settled in to get ready for today's story time. Hell yeah, Wako. That's fucking dope as hell. I know. Ah. So, who all out there remembers what happened during our last story time? Where the party was, what they had just done, and what they were about to do. Gotcha, Marcial. Might be worth reaching out more so directly to her if you're looking to chat. What I'd say is, I know my channel is probably not her focus. I have a lot of VTubers that I'm following that I'm in Discords with that honestly I keep their Discords muted just because of how much stuff goes on in there. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that she's got the Discord entirely muted. Just too much to focus on at a certain point. But for now, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what her most common form of like contact is, whether it's through her own Discord channel. I know she's got one that she does, Twitter or something else. You know how you do. Popular channel Discords are too chaotic. Oh, fucking I agree. Oh. But. Enough about Discords and chats and everything like that. Because first, before we can get into it, I think we all need a bit of a recap. Seeing as we've taken a week off of D&D story times. So then, where, oh where, were we at last? That's right. Settle in and prepare to remember. The party had arrived in Rogluf days ago, and had been searching for a way to spend some of the cash they had come into. In their search for a place selling magical artifacts, they had found a tent in the slums of the city, stuck in an alleyway between two buildings. Roaming inside immediately informed the party of the potential of the items sold here, as the very tent itself seemed to be enchanted. Inside, the party spoke with a man named Gala Der'erre Ertama, a traveler from the lands of Baron Verden. He had many magical items for sale, but as the party examined their prices, they found that the gold they had made could not fully cover the many different magical items they wished to purchase from the man named Gala. And so the party instead chose to speak with the man, see if they could find a method for earning a discount. And it seemed that Gala Der'erre had a job for them. You see, as a member of the country of Baron Verden, he had found it quite difficult to open up his own trade here on the market square, being sent to the slums to sell between alleyways. But with his magical items requiring a high amount of gold to be sold properly, he wished to move to the marketplace as soon as possible. So he told the party that there were 3 things he would like, and for each one they achieved, he would offer them a steep discount on his wares. The first was permission from the nobility of the city to sell in the market square. The second was a guarantee from the military and guards here that they would not confiscate his magic items. After all, the nation of Tverfia was at war, and many traders were seeing their most valuable goods sequestered for the efforts. And third, and finally, he would like to open up connections with the underground of the city, a particular group that needed his assistance. The party had no desire to enter into conversations with the underground, so instead they redirected, saying they would help with the nobility and the guard of the city. The first job took them to a man named Frederick Tever, brother to the king of Tverfia and uncle to the first prince, Ivan. And that is where his problem lied. It seemed the boy had developed an attachment to a noble within the nation. But Frederick had other plans for the first prince, setting up an arrangement with the neighboring nation of Pontvie. A marriage between Princess Katarina and Ivan would ensure full support for Tverfia's war effort. And so the party set off to find out who the boy was in love with, and to choose whether to help him with that romance, or to find a way to sour it, so that Frederick would provide full trading rights to Gala. Speaking with Ivan, they would find out who he was in love with, and what his plan to confess to her involved. Retrieving a doll from her old abandoned family home. The party would speak with other members of the family and discover that long ago, a great uncle in charge of the family had invented autonomous servants, and one night they seemed to have gone mad and killed everyone in the home, save those who escaped at the beginning of the chaos. The party departed to this mansion and set through it room by room, floor by floor, clearing out the monstrous animated suits of armor, until they collected Rosalind's doll, the girl who Ivan had fancied, and found their way into the lab of the great uncle. Inside they would find the journal speaking of how he discovered the power to make these autonomous beings and depicting the descent of his madness. They would learn that he had traveled far to the northwest of Deorum to meet with an old woman in the woods who taught him how to make a new type of magic that granted these beings a modicum of wisdom. However, within this room, they found something more horrific. The decrepit, seemingly dead body of the great uncle still lied in his bed. But as they turned the corpse over, they would find his eyes still roiling in their sockets. He, apparently still alive, kept there by whatever dark magic he had used to create his autonomous servants. As everyone began to question what to do, they eventually chose to put the man out of his mercy, ending him in a swift strike. As they watched, the eyes bounced from their sockets and remained staring at the party. Perch would move to destroy these objects, crushing one, but as he prepared to destroy the second, a voice would reach out to him from far away. The old woman who had taught this man his magic would explain to Perch that this eye was hers by right, that she had set it up for the man to overindulge in his magic. He had been fully warned that each time he created a servant, his own wisdom would be drained away. But he had heeded no warning and continued ahead unabated. Now, trapped in a nightmare of dark magic and madness, his eyes had marinated in that power for years, and the old woman wanted them back. In exchange, she made an offer to Perch. I will answer the many questions you have about what you are, who you were, and all I want is that I return. With the deal made, Perch wished for time to think about it, handing the eye to Valandria to hold so that he may spend a moment gathering his thoughts, considering the options. But as Valandria gripped the eye, the woman spoke to her, offering her power and knowledge to return the eye to her. Valandria, disgusted by the magic used here, distasted of this strange magic woman who would torture others to create artifacts, told the woman no, and destroyed the second eye. As Perch turned to see all hope of discovering the truth about himself dashed against the floor, he would scream at Valandria, telling her that she owed him answers, and if she could not provide, that they would need to come to a new arrangement. The party would then head down to the first floor and make effort to destroy the last of the remaining suits of armor, departing from the house and returning to the city of Autumn. Once there, they would speak with Rosalind again and learn what her feelings on the whole romance of the prince were. And with her, the party would strike a deal. They would set up for the prince to provide her with a magic weapon of the family, something she could give away to whoever she most cared about. But in exchange, she must break the prince's heart. Roslyn would agree, and the party would take this news to Frederick Tever, explaining to him the plan. And although he did not like it, he agreed, providing the party with the paperwork to give to Gala, granting him full trade rights within the city of Rockcliffe. And he would begin preparations to send the young prince to his inevitable heartbreak. With their mission succeeded, the reward in their hand, the party departed from the castle and headed towards Gala Der'erre. And with that, I believe we are all caught up on where we left the party off last. And so now I could get in and actually respond to some things that happened during our recap. First and foremost, hello, Nay. Thank you for the raid. Hello, Raiders. How are you all doing? Hello and welcome. I am Eric. Yes, that one. The cute little tardigrade over here in the corner. And today, I am telling a Dungeons and Dragons story. A story that has been ongoing for some time now, but follows the tale of my current D&D party. I'm sorry, when I get into the story, I try not to break the rhythm when things are happening, just to keep things smooth and intense. But thank you so much for showing up. I hope you all are excited to hear the rest of the story. But before we can get back into it, it seems I also have a redeem from Little Pink Bowser. Little Pink Bowser, you wished for me to say something in my narrator's voice. Well, don't you worry. I have a tale to tell you. And all it is ara, ara. I hope you appreciate that, Little Pink. It's a little odd, just because I'm very used to setting up specific voices for different things, and mixing and blending them throws me off just a small amount. But the recap done, our redeem in and locked, we'll prepare to begin the story proper. But before we do that, as always, are there any questions out there? Any clarifications needed before we continue on ahead? Any predictions, confusions, or other welcomes you would like me to provide? We'll take just a few minutes pause here between the recap and the story. So if there's anything you wish to ask, wish to say, or think needs be clarified before we continue ahead with the next step in our story, now is the time for you. And now is the time for me to take a few drinks to prepare my voice for setting in to a good hour and a half of storytelling. Oh, Little Pink, my prediction from last week is that the old woman is a hag. Very, very interesting. Though to be fair, Little Pink, you play D&D, don't you? It tends to be pretty easy to figure out who insanely magically powered old women in woods are. After all, 9 times out of 10, they do tend to be the same thing, don't they? Anything else anyone would like to know? I used to DM. Yeah, Little Pink, then you know. God, I have to know, Little Pink. Do you oftentimes give your hags a few extra abilities? Just make them a little more intimidating, a little more mystical, a little more able to break the rules. Any advice for someone wanting to get into DMing, but not wanting to just use modules? Absolutely, Wako. The advice, I think, changes quite a bit depending on if you've played before or not, and if people with you have played before or not. But, like, what I can say, for example, my very first session I ever DM'd Wako was also the very first session a lot of people had ever played that I had on with me. It was me and just three of my friends, and for Christmas one year, I had gotten the fourth edition Player's Handbook and DM Handbook. And so I told them all that we were going to try to play D&D. So what we did is we all just sat down at a table, started reading through all the rules and going through character creation. Character creation is the number one way I recommend learning D&D, or at least the foundations of it. For when you're making a character, it'll raise tons of questions trying to figure out how do stats work, how do attacks work, how do spells work. That helps you flesh out your character and helps you really learn the basics of it. Once you kind of do that on your very first time, doing it collectively with everybody is great. So that all of you could be looking at different pages of the book, all of you could be able to answer questions or give out what you think is how it works. And once that's all together, I just ran my group through basically not even a dungeon. It was all of them had gathered together and they were walking down a road to fight some creatures that were, or like a group of bandits that were at the end of the road, essentially. There was no, overarching story, no big plot, nothing about setting or anything like that. It was just, you guys are going to walk down the road, fight these creatures, walk back. It was basically the entire premise of it for our very first session. And so they all gathered up, and immediately, before they even started walking, all of them started talking in character. It's really helpful that all of us were involved in our high school drama department, so we all were really down for roleplay. And so honestly, it was an hour of them talking to each other, chatting, and then talking as they're walking down the road, telling each other a little bit about their characters. And then once they were near to where, like, once they're about halfway down the road, I had an ambush springed on them where there was just like a group of 4 wolves or something. Something light, something to like surprise them, something that they didn't know was going to happen. The fight happened. Then they all talked about their abilities, what they were able to do, and started asking each other how they learned that. Then they walked the rest of the way, and before they got to the camp, they made the plan for how they wanted to attack it. They fought the bandits, they cheered, and the session ended. That was my very first session, and it's really super a basic thing. It wasn't amazing, but everyone I think had a lot of fun just trying this out. If it's your first time DMing and a lot of people's first time playing, I'd say keep everything as simple as possible and just give them the opportunity to try out everything. The very next time I did a big DM thing was actually co-DMing with one of my friends from that. We got together, everybody from school, and me and him worked together for like a week to make a world and to make a city that was like in lockdown that the party would be starting in, and they would have to work through a bunch of different events to basically find their way out of this city. So this was a lot more complex, but I was co-DMing with a friend, which allowed us to split off a lot of the work. It's something that people don't talk about a lot. There aren't a lot of stories about, but honestly, if it's really early on and you're wanting to make a massive setting or a complex setting and you haven't done it before, I highly recommend working with somebody else as well. Having 2 DMs can feel confusing at some times, but is really useful for fleshing out a lot of different areas at once, working with a party who likes to split up, having multiple people able to play multiple NPCs at once, and just sort of being able to split up all the effort and have someone you can openly talk and plan with to bounce ideas back and forth with, which really helps you build out everything a lot more. When it comes to like what I've done here, which is make an entire world of 70 countries, build lore going back thousands of years, create a lot of complicated political and economic interconnections between nations. This is like my 10th time doing a DMing thing, like building up a campaign and going. And even then, a lot of the stuff that was created, I had friends say, I went up to them and say, hey, I'd like you to make a city state. I'm going to plug it into a world. And so I got like 10 or so city states and countries and kingdoms handed to me. And then I built out the world kind of around a lot of the ideas that were granted. The number one thing is D&D is a collective storytelling game. It's something about everyone contributing to making a really cool story and interaction. So the more you can get other people involved in your building process, whether it's having a co-DM and you two making a world, finding pieces of your world that your players can design to get plugged in. A lot of this really helps everyone feel a lot more invested, a lot more curious, and a lot more like you're all working together to tell the story. And it really helps the DM take some of that extra effort and hardworking pieces out of building. If it's your very first time, I'd say just make a really simple combat type scenario. Something where it's basically go through this dungeon, go to this event. Always throw in a wrench and have fun with it. It doesn't need to be serious, especially when it's your first time. And honestly, just taking a fuck around first time is really helpful for figuring out a lot of the rules along the way. But yeah, I have a question. Since the characters travel a lot, are there any super exotic ways to travel in your world? For example, have you seen Arcane? I have seen Arcane, and there are some ways to travel, though the party is started out level 1 and has been very slowly accruing gold. Their travel has mostly been by foot and by wagon, mostly due to them always moving over land or not having a ton of coin on hand. However, I'm also doing a very low technology level of world. Deorum is starting out very... Basically, the best way to put it is there are not gunslingers in this world. The first Warforged have been made in secret, and no one knows about them yet. There aren't airships, there aren't massive guns, or even really cannons that exist anywhere in the world. This is, more so early medieval or even dark ages level technology for the most part, but with magic in it. Because of that, there are magical ways to travel. And you can, of course, travel by sea, or other magical creatures can be used as mounts in very special ways. But there isn't technology very much used for travel besides wagons, carts, and that like. Let's see. Also, you don't want to do what I do? What do you do, little pink? My first session was actually the 5th edition starter module. Made a level 1 of every class to learn the classes. And I had a little bit of familiarity with watching crit roll. Yeah, and watching any source of people who are playing games can be very helpful. Critical Role, I think, is obviously a lot more geared towards the entertainment factor of it. So it can be tricky to understand a lot of the rulings through them. I honestly recommend some of the smaller other groups that have existed, or just looking around for a more personal one, just because they tend to do a bit more of a explanation of what house rules they use at the beginning, so you can understand what is a house rule and what is a baseline rule, and that could be very helpful for you to understand what rules you want to edit moving forward. And let's hear what's this walking. The group I'm with is fairly experienced, with a few having DM'd a few long campaigns, so the rules won't be too much of a worry. I guess planning is what I'm worried about, but I definitely see the benefits of holding back on some of the bigger ideas for a one-shot and starting simpler, just to get the hang of running things. Definitely we'll see if any of them would like to co-op DM thing. Thanks for your advice. Hell yeah, Wacko. And honestly, I think you'll find, you might be surprised. A lot of people don't really expect it, but co-DMing can be shockingly fun if you two spend a week or two beforehand planning a lot of things out. And it's something that I'm surprised I don't hear more about. The new beginning of Crit Role was a little easier, which was the time period I watched. Yeah, I think I tried to start on campaign 1 for Critical Role, but ended up swapping off it. I've got like 2 episodes of campaign 2 left to watch, and then I'm thinking of going into campaign 3. But, but, that was a pretty long tangent, you guys. I'm afraid this is where we're going to be closing down questions and clarifications. After all, we have a story to delve into today. All right, then. All right. Settle down. Settle down. Find a seat. Get yourselves warm. Have a drink and a snack on hand. But also, keep on the lights. For what comes next will be dangerous, will be dark, and will leave you with an important choice. A choice to make in the darkness. Valandria, Malachite, Perch, and Pharaoh departed from the arena, having finished speaking with Hawks. Receiving their reward, telling him of the house's freedom, they apologized for a few burn marks near the entrance. And Malachite hands the man a bottle of wine from his own house's stores before they depart and head back to the tavern. Arriving back, they find Tortuga and Rasmussen sat around the table, chatting, drinking. It seems while the rest of the party had spent their morning fighting monstrous suits of armor, dealing with court intrigue, these two had been relaxing. Nothing quite so irritating for party members to see in the late afternoon. As they arrived, they explained to the missing party members what they had been up to. That they had broken up a prince with a potential love interest, that they had fought suits of armor in a mansion, and faced the darkness that had caused it. And when asked why, the party explained that they had met a mysterious tiefling, Gala Der'erre, who ran a magical items shop, and that they were doing jobs for him to earn discounts on the items he sold. Thus, with one job done, they were heading back to report to him and to look through his wares, now that things would be considerably cheaper. "Well, I'm never one to miss out on a bargain," Rasmussen says, rising from the table and patting Valandria heavily on the back. "Let's go meet this Gala friend of yours." "Right, wait for us to complete the job and then come around for the rewards. Sounds fair," Valandria says, rolling her eyes. As she looks behind her to Perch for a bit of support on her derisive speech, she sees him staring at her, cold, irritated. The memory of her destroying the eye, still fresh. She quiets down and begins to wonder what she can do to earn his trust again. So the party gathers and heads out of the tavern, across the city and into the slums of Roglaf. They search about until they find the tent tucked between 2 buildings in an alleyway. They cross through the threshold and are met by the familiar feeling of being transported to another place entirely, as wind and sand is blown against the sides of the tent As they enter in, the lanterns begin to warm. Light spreads as the fur-cloaked figure of Gala rises from his chair and gives a deep bow to the group. Hello and welcome. I am Gala Der'erre Ertama, and this is... Oh, it is you all again. Have you returned with good news? Gala asks, seeing the familiar adventures he had set out to earn the favor of the nobility. Valandria strides forward, holding up a folded group of documents. We have indeed, she says, and we have something you might be very interested in, right here. She hands to Gala the documents, which he takes quickly, looking through them, the excitement growing more and more visible upon his face. Yes, everything here seems to be in perfect order. Thank you so much. And, of course, my gratitude is not small. With one of the jobs done, I shall provide a 20% discount on all the magic items in my shop and any other service I may provide to you. Thank you very much, Valandria says. I believe you had a few spell scrolls for me to look through. Of course, Gala says. Reaching down, he pulls up a crate of scrolls, books, and tomes and places them on the counter. Browse to your contentment. As Valandria spends many minutes digging through the documents, reading each, searching for something of great value, the rest of the party disperses throughout the store. Ras and Tortuga find themselves in front of a strange dresser-looking shelf with many odds and ends hung on it. A pair of boots sit down on a mud rack, a strange stone balanced on top of a mirror, and many other doodads and pieces. Now that does look interesting, Rasmussen says, reaching out and picking up a small, simple, smooth stone. In it are carved a dozen runes. The stone itself seems to have been semi-formed into a crystalline shape, though smoothed over and rounded at the corners. Ah, you have a good eye, my dwarfish friend, Gala says, approaching the two, curious in his curios. Ah, this looks interesting. What is this? That, Gala says, is a Delver stone. A rare item indeed, one it can be quite hard to find an interested party to purchase. Well, what's it do then? Asks Rasmussen. It does many things. The Delver stone, once attuned to you, can circle your crown like a magical ion stone. It will circle about, providing you with many, many benefits. Now that is interesting, Rasmussen responds, looking at the simple stone. First, it can act as a light for you in the darkest of places, shining light either all around you for 20 feet or directing it into a cone straight ahead of you. Additionally, the stone can always tell you which direction is true north and what hour of the day it is. Interesting, Rasmussen says. And how much is an item like this? Well, usually I would sell it for no less than 900 gold pieces. But as you all have done such good work for me, I will give it to you for merely 700. That's a deal, Rasmussen says, emptying out the last of the gold in his own pouch to take the stone. I think I'll come up with a name for you Rasmussen says, as he begins slowly attuning to his new item. And for you, my elfish friend. What are those boots? Tortuga says, pointing to a pair of soft leather boots. The strange insignia in them, reminiscent of roots, branches, and leaves. Boots of elven kind. They can make one quite silent when they move. And how much for those? Tortuga asks quietly, staring. The usual price for such items would be multiple thousands of gold coins. And I'm afraid even with a steep discount, they would still cost you a little over 1,500 gold. Tortuga says, considering the gold in his pocket. Considering. The other party members make shorter work looking through the items. Pharaoh ends up purchasing a strange lantern, something she knows of as the Whisperer's Lantern, able to allow conversations to remain quite secretive. And at the end of her rummaging, Valandria pulls out a single scroll with a spell upon it, and trades away a few hundred coins. Then she pulls out a second scroll, something she has been looking for years. Something of great value. The spell Haste. How much for this? Valandria asks. After the discount, that would still be about 1,000 gold coins. Are you sure? I only have 500 at this time. Tortuga makes his way over to the pair as they're haggling. What's the spell? Tortuga asks. Well, this spell is called Haste. It can make one move very fast. In fact, it can allow them to act more quickly than imaginable in some cases, run at super speeds, and... How much are you missing? Well, I need another 500 gold coins too. With that, Tortuga pulls out his own pouch and hands it over to Valandria. I could not accept. How about this? I'll help you buy it, but I want you to use a spell like that on me, yeah? Next time we're in a fight. Well, I suppose I can make that deal, Valandria says, accepting the coin, accepting the scroll, and giddily preparing to copy it down into her own spell book. Drained of much of their gold, the party then settles down to speak with Gala about the next job. Sure, Rasmussen begins. I hear my friends had done something quite useful to you, but you still had something else you needed done. That might give us further discounts here. Quite, Gala responds. In fact, the second job will cut things down quite a bit, and in exchange I will provide you all with a few healing potions. Well, I like the sound of that. What do you need? What I need is assurances from the local guard that they will not sequester any of my goods should I set up in the market square. I have been in good conversations with a man named Sergeant Grek, and he has made me certain promises in exchange for resolving 2 issues for him. One of them quite easy, the other potentially harder. Well, what are these things he needs? It would probably be best for you to speak to him in person, but essentially, he needs you all to take up a job of delivering a letter to the neighboring kingdom and to deliver it somewhere else. With that, Valandria's ears perk as she turns towards Gala. She has built quite a good relationship with the guild hall and would dislike having to tarnish it with a mistaken job. Furthermore, it seems that a mine in the wilderness has gone dark lately, and he would like to send some adventurers to investigate. So, don't deliver a letter and clear out a mine of some monsters? Most likely. I like the sound of this job. Rasmussen looks around at the rest of the party. Are we all interested? One by one, they all nod, each looking at many of the other magical items sold by Gala. I think we'll take the deal then. With that, Rasmussen rises with his new stone in hand, giving it a light toss in the air. He watches as it rises up, then stops just around the crown of his head and begins slowly orbiting around him. Now that is a good rock, ain't it? What do you all think I should name it? You should call it Pharaoh, Tortuga says, stifling back a laugh. Yes, Malachite says, looking up at the floating stone. I'm sorry, what? Pharaoh says, looking at the stone orbiting around Rasmussen's head. Ah, I like it. We'll call her Pharaoh. Excuse me, but I am already named Pharaoh. As the party continues out of the tent laughing and speaking of their new companion, Pharaoh, as Pharaoh argues and tries to convince them to name the rock anything other than her own name, they do not notice as Perch stays behind, watching them depart from the tent. He quietly turns and approaches Gala. Oh, was there something else you needed? An item you liked? Gala asked the heavily armored figure. Actually, it was a service you talked about being able to do last time we were here. Oh, what can I do for you? With that, Perch's eyes glance over at the tuning forks hung near Gala's seat. Oh, I see. Something you wish to identify. Something maybe that you found yourself and don't wish for the whole party to know its value. Not exactly, but close enough, Perch says, as he reaches up and grabs the handle of the great sword hung on his back. He draws it out and shows it to Gala. We got this from some bandits we were fighting. One of them seemed to be from Baron Verdun, and he had this. It seemed to be able to do things, and after I got it, well, something's felt off about it. Something I'm not quite sure about, and I was wondering if you could look at it and tell me what it can do, what it is, anything about it. Ah, not the simple identify then, but to look deeper. Yes. Can you find it out? Well, I can identify what it is and what it does, and I can see if it has any hidden properties. Magic is very good at finding out what an item is supposed to do, but occasionally an item has something incorrect about it. Something hidden, a power not yet available, or something misaligned, causing defects. These cannot be predicted or known, but I can tell you if there is anything unknown within it. Please, Perch says, handing the sword over to him. And if there's anything you can tell me about where it came from. What was the name of this Baron Verden you killed, Gala says, as he lightly places his fingers under the blade and draws it towards him, setting it down carefully upon the table. As he does, he rests 2 fingers on the flat of the blade and does a quick flick to the metal, rising his other hand up and reaching towards the tuning forks, listening to the ringing sound from his strike. Well, Perch says, watching as Gala lightly grabs up one of the tuning forks from its hung position and begins circling it around his ear. They called the man Sethic. When he had it, there were these green crystals growing out of it, but they seemed to shatter or something. He was able to cast flames and other things from the blade. Ah, that man's name was not Sethic, then, says Gala. That is the name of one of the tribes of Baron Verden, a rather famous one for the wielders of its weapons and the magical abilities they grant. With that, Gala strikes the sword with the tuning fork and quickly holds it up to his ear, listening carefully to the ringing sound the fork gives off. As he grows accustomed to it, he strikes the blade twice once more and listens more closely. Ah, yes. What you have here is a Sethic blade, an item crafted from Baron Verden's steel, which you can see by the dark black veins through the metal. The item holds in it, though, a strong enchantment, something unique to the Sethic clan. Those crystals are found only in the mines that they oversee, and grant some of the powers you spoke of to the weapons. This particular blade can cast 3 different spells when wielded properly. The first is Green Flame Blade, allowing you to cause an eruption of fire as you strike with the blade, burning both the target and someone else nearby. Secondly is a spell called Blade Burst. Crystals will fly from the hilt, striking everyone around you, stabbing, piercing, allowing yourself to clear a room rather quickly. Finally, is a spell to defend the wielder. Hellish Rebuke. When you are struck and driven with enough rage, the blade will send a gout of flame out at that who attacked you, burning them away and allowing you to keep fighting unabated. What else can you tell me of the Sethic? They keep their crafting a very big secret, you see. The Sethic clan is famed for its fighters and magical combatants, and their crystals are known to be the secret to this, though what they do exactly is unclear. It is known that those in the clan receive their weapons at a young age, and must prove themselves through different trials to be worthy of becoming true warriors. It is said that the blades allow them a strong connection to the demon at the source of their bloodline. At that, Perch feels a tingle climb up his neck. By wielding this, I connected to a demon. Will a demon try to... You should be fine, Gala says. The connection is through the bloodline. It is believed that if someone other than a Sethic wields the blades, they might earn some powers, but because they do not have a direct connection to wherever the power comes from, the weapon itself should not be able to sink its hooks into you. You should be perfectly safe, as far as I can tell, says Gala. But now to see if there is something hidden. With that, Gala hangs up the first tuning fork and grabs one much smaller from the shelf. He watches as the fork circles the ear of Gala once, twice, and a third time, before quickly Gala strikes the blade 3 times, moving from the hilt to the tip, then holds the fork up to his ears, listening carefully. There is something hidden about this blade, my friend. What? There is some secret that Identify cannot learn about it. I can sense a great deal of power at the core of this blade. Not yet accessible, not yet working, not yet influenced. There is a secret in it. Something odd. Perch says, staring down at the Sethic blade. Well, thank you. How much? 50 gold pieces will be all for that service. Thank you, Perch says, handing the gold over, sheathing his sword, and departing from the tent. The party would then gather in the tavern. They would spend their evening drinking, speaking to one another, plotting out what to do next. So, what's the plan then? Obviously, tomorrow we'll go on out or talk to this Greg guy, see what exactly he wants. But since we already know basically what's happening, how do we want to handle the guild hall? I cannot go there, Valandria says. I've spent many years building a strong relationship with them, and I will not sully that to fail at a quest. That's fine. I've not really dealt with that much before. I could take the job. So I'll go in alone, take the job, take this letter or whatever, and I'll meet you all outside the city. We can just go try to handle the cave, and then we can all come back, yeah? And once we've done that, we'll go turn everything into the man at once, get our reward, speak to Gala, and we'll be much richer for it, yeah? Guess that makes sense, Tortuga says. Yeah. Well then, sounds like we got the evening free. I'ma keep drinking. That Rasmussen orders himself a second drink. The rest of the party speaks with him for a bit, but then begins splitting off to go out on their own business. Malachite, Pharaoh says, could you come with me for an hour? I want to go on a walk and would love for you to join me for it. Sure, Malachite says, a bit confused, but willing to come along. Thank you. Patch, Valandria says quietly. I was wondering if we could perhaps speak in my room about what happened. Birch nods. Standing, he follows Valandria. And following the both of them is Tortuga, curious about what will happen next. As they go up the stairs and arrive on the second floor, the two turn around and see Tortuga following them. Tortuga, I think there should be something with just me and... That's fine, Birch says, looking at Tortuga. I'm fine if he comes along. All right, Valandria says. Then how about we go to my room? With that, the three of them enter into her room, each taking a seat. As Valandria gathers up some papers, pen, ink, she looks over and speaks. Perch, I made you a promise that I would try to help understand something about what you are, about where your power comes from. I'm sorry I destroyed that eye, but I do not think you could trust that woman. I'm sorry for that. But I want to start working immediately to help you find out. I've seen you in combat a few times, Perch, and I can already say your magic is strange. Not something I've really seen before. You don't seem to use an arcane focus or components or... I was wondering if you could explain to me some of your powers, what you need to do them, and I might be able to begin piecing together where they come from. With that, Perch begins to slowly nod. I guess I don't really know where to begin, but I'll tell you everything I can. I won't lie to you. I won't deceive you. And in exchange, I need you to agree to something. If at any point you ask a question that I don't want to answer, I will tell you that, and you will back off. Agreed, Valandria says, preparing to write. When were you first able to use these abilities? What seemed to cause it? I guess I've been able to use these as long as I can remember. All right, since birth. So that sounds to me most similar to a type of sorcery. But even they tend to require focus or components. Is there any materials you have to use for your casting? Any hand emotions or anything like that? Purge stops and thinks for a moment. I don't seem to ever use any components. I seem to just reach for a power within myself and draw on that. Valandria writes, then looks up and stares at him for a bit. This isn't me criticizing or trying to counter you. This is just me explaining, Perch. That is impossible based on everything I know about magic. Sorcerers, clerics, wizards, every type of person that can use magic requires components to do it. I don't know what to say, Perch says. I just sort of reach for the power and something seems to come. All right, well, maybe you could show me some of your powers. Perch nods and begins slowly showing some of the abilities he possesses. First, he shows how he can wrap himself in shadows, and how these shadows roil about, protecting him, driving away other forces coming towards him, making him resistant to non-magical damage. Next, he shows how he can reshape the shadows, change their color, their darkness, until he appears to be something that he is not, disguising himself through the magic. He shows how he can create shadowy images of himself that stand around him, moving like he does, making himself almost impossible to pick out from the group of images. And then he shows an ability. that after he has marked someone, that he can teleport a short distance. As shadows roil across the ground, he seems to be pulled into them, traveling under the doorway, around the darkest corners of a room, before appearing directly behind his target. Valandria scrawls away on her notes, talking of the spells that many of these are close to, and the ones that seem to have no basis in magic she has ever heard of. Flabbergasted, marveled by it, she writes and writes. It is all amazing, Perch. Some of these abilities seem unfounded in the basic rules of magic that I have learned. But some of them are like alterations on existing spells. All of it founded around illusions that seem to have been given a stronger form by whatever you are doing. Perch, because you've always been able to do this, because this magic seems to be drawing on an energy within you, I think it is all based somehow on something about you. So I think the core of finding out where this magic comes from is the simple question of, where are you from, Perch? Where were you born? Who is your family? Perch starts looking at her, looking down. He finds his voice choking in his throat. The darkness of his memories present. The things he's tried to protect. The things he has forgotten. I don't want to answer that, Perch says. What? Valandria says. I think this is the only question we need to answer. This is the crux of everything. I said, I don't want to answer that, Valandria. And you agreed. Right, Valandria says, looking down at her notes, at the questions, all pointing to this one answer. What is Perch? I just need... I'm sorry, Valandria says. We can end there for tonight. I'll go over these notes and see if there's anything else I could tell you tomorrow. If that is all right. Yeah, that is, Perch says, rising from his chair. He departs from the room, leaving Valandria and Tortuga alone. Tortuga stares as the man goes, wondering his own questions about who Perch is. Out in the market square, late at night, stand two cloaked figures, one rather short and one rather tall. Pharaoh and Malachite stand in the market square, watching the roads in each direction. All right, but what are we looking for? Malachite says, looking up at Pharaoh. Do you remember, back in Satan, the strange man wearing that skull mask? Yeah, Malachite says. He was like walking around the tents and shit. Quite. Well, I think I've seen some of them walking around in Rogla. And I wanted to spend a few hours seeing if we could follow one. Why is that? Malachite asks. I think they are connected to people I know, is all Pharaoh says before falling quiet and watching the roads. An hour passes, and both of them lurch forward in a start as they see a figure with a red skull mask tied to his hip, crossing through the market square, heading down a road into the slums of Roglith. There, Pharaoh says, as the two of them begin walking after him, following him through the winding streets, attempting to keep a distance. Relying on Malachite's tracking ability, they're able to keep quite a safe sightline from the man, but eventually, the busy roads in the slums leave no marking of where he had gone. Looking lost, the two begin looking around every building corner, trying to find where the man went, before a voice catches their attention. Of a poor man missing one of his legs, sat down on a street corner. "What are the two of you looking for? You seem lost." "Slightly, my friend," the Pharaoh says, stepping forward. "We were just following a friend of ours, and we seem to have lost him. Has anyone come through here recently? Anyone wearing a red mask?" "Oh, I see. You are looking for those people. Well, I will not tell you where he went," says the man. "They are very helpful. They provide me sometimes with medical attention, sometimes with a bit of gold." As the man says this, he holds up his hand, giving the universal symbol of gold, and makes eye contact with the two of them, pointedly. Of course, Pharaoh says, reaching into her own pouch and pulling out 2 gold coins, handing them to the man. "Yes, I saw someone come through here recently, but I also know where he likes to go. He always goes to the same store, you see. I think he lives out the back of it. He is such a nice man, though, providing help for all the downtrodden here. I couldn't possibly betray such a man." His eyes go wide as Pharaoh hands him 5 gold coins. "You can find him into butchers. You're looking for eel slime." "Eel slime?" "It is what we call the place. I do not know what the butcher shop is actually called, but it'll be the only one with eels hung out front of it, dripping their slime out, drying off." "Thank you, my friend," Pharaoh says, before departing down the road in the direction of the distant butchers. The two of them walk down the streets till eventually they find the smell overtaking them. Something between rotting fish and the sour smell of spoiled fruit. Between these two smells, they're able to quickly find the butchers. They approach the shop and enter inside to be suddenly accosted by the man behind the counter. "It is far too late in the evening. Get out of here. We are closed." "I'm sorry, sir, but—" "I said we're closed," says the man as he looks up at the pair who had come in. Pharaoh, holding up a coin quickly. "I'm not here for meat, simply for a question and perhaps a meeting." "Why would you like to meet with a butcher for?" the man says, looking her up and down. "Not with you," she says. "I wish to speak with a man who likes to wear masks." The butcher's gruff energy suddenly drains from his face as he goes a bit pale. I don't know who you could possibly be talking about." "This would all go much smoother if you do not lie to me," Pharaoh says. "No one here is in trouble. I simply wish to speak with him." Well, You see, suddenly the door at the back of the shop opens up, and a figure walks in, wearing a mask of a red skull on their face. They look around, stating, "And who is looking for—" His voice catches as he sees the Aarakocra at the door. I'm sorry, sir, for having brought you trouble. I'll speak with them outside. There is no problem, please." With that, the man very quickly begins offering excuses to the butcher before pushing past and approaching Pharaoh. "Are you a teacher?" the man mutters softly. Yes, Pharaoh states, looking at Malachite for support. Malachite nods along assuredly. "I am a teacher, and wished to speak with you." Of course, he says. "I did not think, please come with me." With that, the man leads the two of them out back of the butchery. "I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I did not realize a teacher would be coming here. I did not think, please, my dearest apologies." With that, the man bows low before Pharaoh, who gestures for him to rise. "I quite like your mask," she says, with a sweet smile. Thank you. The man who taught me explained to me how everything worked and that I should wear the mask whenever I was working." "Yes, and who was it who taught you?" "Well, he didn't give me his name, but he had one of the bird masks, and since I was taught by him, he said I should wear a skull mask, and anyone I might teach will also wear skull masks." "I see. So that man was taught by a teacher?" "Yes, he said he learned from the teacher." "Do you believe you could find the teacher then?" Of course, if it's something you would ask of me." "Could I ask then, what is your name, my teacher?" says the man as he gives another deep bow. "I am Pharaoh," Pharaoh says quietly, and watches the man stiffens and slowly raises his eyes to look at her. "You're the Pharaoh?" "Yes." The man immediately falls to his knees. "I'm so sorry to have not recognized you. Please, whatever you would ask, I will go immediately. I will find the teacher no matter what and deliver any message you have." "Good," Pharaoh says, kneeling beside the man, craning her neck and lowering her beak to his ear. "I need you to find the teacher. I need you to tell him that the Pharaoh is here, that she will bring truth and punishment to those who have failed her, wronged her, and that he should expect a visit from me soon." As Pharaoh rises from the man, she looks down as he gazes up at her. Anything, my teacher. I will go immediately." With that, he rises, and I will find you once I have his response. And the man departs down the alleyways, the back roads, departing from Rogla. With that, Pharaoh and Malachite gather and depart from the slums of Rogloth to return to their tavern. So, Can I ask what the fuck all that was? I will be honest with you, Malachites. I don't 100% know. But I have some suspicion. You dropped all that fucking shit without knowing what was going on? Of course. Why should I not have? I like you, Pharaoh, Malachite says, as the two return home, find their beds, and wait for morning to come. The next morning, the party gathers in the tavern and finalizes their plan. Step 1 is speaking with Sergeant Grek. Learn what exactly he needs, and then they'll depart. Rasmussen will head off to the guild hall while the rest of the party speaks with Grek to gather up this message and depart from the city to meet up with them outside its walls. From there, all of them will depart to the cave or mine or whatever the fuck they're going to, and resolve Grek's issue. Spend a night out there to give the impression of Rasmussen having gone on a longer journey, and then we'll return midday to Roglaf to return everything to where it needs to go. With that, they depart towards the barracks of Roglaf. They spend some time waiting before they are able to get a meeting with Sergeant Grek. They are brought back to his office. There they see an older fellow, somewhere in his early 40s, sitting behind a desk. He looks up at the eclectic group now in his office space, as he roughly says, "So what is it? Why do I have a group of adventurers coming to speak with me all of a sudden?" "We represent Gala. You said you had some work that you needed to be done in exchange for..." You're with the Teifling. That explains some of this, then. Very well. I'll be brief. Currently in the guild hall, there is a job for delivering a letter from the castle here to the palace in Tverfia. It should be addressed to Princess Katerina. I need you to accept this job, take the letter, and deliver it to me instead. However, no one can suspect what you have done. So first, I need you to spend a couple of days outside the city to make it seem like you have done your job, yeah? Of course, says Rasmussen. I will make sure things are done well and correctly. Once you have returned it to me, says Grek, leaning in towards Rasmussen, I will hand you a response. This you will not take to the guild hall. Instead, you will deliver it directly to Frederick Tever in the palace. You think you can do that? Of course, Rasmussen says. Of course, I can deliver it wherever you need. Good. The second thing is, there is an important iron mine just outside of the city that is gone dark about a month ago. Just this week, I was finally able to gather enough men to send out a scouting force to see what was going on, but they never came back. So now I need a group less likely to disappear, to go out, find out what is happening in the mine, clear it out and secure it, and let me know once everything is fine. Do you understand all of this? Of course, Valandria says. Good. Get to it. I will expect to hear back from you within 2 days, and I expect you to have everything done by then. With that, Grek bids them depart. He is crass, quick to state what needs to happen, but is not the worst at providing the information the party would have asked for. And so they all depart, most of them to gather up their things to depart from Roglaf, where Rasmussen goes to the guild hall. Yeah, I'm just looking for a bit of work while I'm in town. I'm planning on heading out pretty soon, though, so if you got anything that I can do on my way out, that'd be greatly appreciated. Of course, says the elf behind the desk. Well, I've got a few jobs I could hand to you, but I should let you know there's been quite a bit of politics going on in the city. Alright, is that a problem? Not normally, but you see, some of the jobs we have available are likely to get one faction or another irritated with whoever performed them. No problem for me. Like I said, I'm on my way out pretty soon, so just something that'll be quick and let me make some good coin. Well then, the woman provides Rasmussen with a few jobs in the city. Rasmussen reads through each of them, looking for the one. Then he spots it. Well, that sounds good, Rasmussen says. Just deliver a letter to the next kingdom over. I'll take that. Well, I should let you know that is one of the jobs we have been somewhat concerned about. I'm not concerned. Just hand me the letter. I'll get it all delivered. No problems. All right. If you are sure, then. With that, the woman departs and brings out a letter and contract for Rasmussen. He signs them up, takes the letter, and departs, walking through the city, tucking the letter away. He finds himself outside the walls of Rogla within half an hour, and following the road towards the mountains, he eventually finds his party gathered up and waiting. We're off without a hitch. Got a letter here, and we'll finish all this off without much problem, yeah? All right, Valandria says. I still do not like the idea of failing a mission, but this should be fine. With that, the party walks down the road, spending several hours. They begin to notice the woods growing more and more dense as they approach the base of the mountain, where this important iron mine should be. Eventually, the roadway gives way to more of a path, carved through the dirt by obviously heavily laden wagons. It is clear that a lot of traffic had moved through here a long time ago. But as weeds and fast-growing plants have overgrown this path, it is clear it has not been used for at least a month. The party continues traveling up the roadway, till eventually they find themselves stopping and taking cover behind trees. They can hear something ahead of them, strange sounds. And on the wind is the smell of blood and rot. Creeping forward, Malachite and Tortuga head off as the two scouts, getting well within sightline of the base of a cliff. They see a hole, a mine shaft, visible. But around that shaft, they also see blood, viscera, piles of discarded bone, crates ripped open, an overturned wagon, and large beasts digging through the refuse, biting bones open and sucking out the marrow before discarding them back in the refuse piles. As they dig, sounds can be heard from them. Strange, yipping noises as they nip and bite at each other before returning to pawing through the refuse. Staring out ahead of them, Malachite, Tortuga see the strange bipedal creatures. No, lost. As their strange yipping laughter, biting, gnashing, and guttural tones echo back and forth between them. They're speaking abyssal, Malachite says to Tortuga. How in the fuck do you know what abyssal sounds like? Not important, Malachite says. Fuck, Tortuga says. As they watch for a few minutes, they see another group of these strange hyena-like creatures exit from the mine, carrying out more barrels of viscera, refuse, broken tools, and discarded items, and dump them out for the compatriots to dig through for scraps. The two of them make their way back down the road to the rest of the party, begin describing what they had seen. Gnolls, Rasmussen says. Dealt with them once or twice before. They don't tend to settle long in a spot, but yeah, they like to show up, eat everybody and everything around, and then move on. They don't tend to be pretty heavily armed or armored, but depending on how big their pack is, they can be quite dangerous. How intelligent are they? Smart enough to make a plan, says Rasmussen. But also quite easily tricked at times. Have you got what you need to do it? Well then, I think we need to draw this group out front away. Get them a bit of a distance, ambush them, and try to take everything in bites, yeah? Like the sound of that plan. Alright, we can do that. I'm down. With that, the party begins making a wide circle around the mouth of the mine, keeping themselves out of sight as much as possible from the gnolls, until a distance away they find a dip in the terrain, a spot that goes down in a very subtle slope, where they could get themselves out of sight of anything approaching. Here the party spreads out and prepares their ambush. Now then, time to show you all what a wizard can do. With that, Valandria casts out a spell of minor illusion, making the sound of a wounded boar squeal out into the valley. Once, twice, the noise goes, and they all go quiet, hidden. Watching in the direction of the mine, they see a group of 4 gnolls coming towards them, sniffing, yipping, quietly approaching as they begin making their way into the trap. As one begins to come more forward, they all watch as one of the larger of the 4 gnolls stops and begins sniffing the air. It growls something under its breath and begins addressing the other 2 next to it. Farah leans towards Valandria. It said, I don't smell any blood. What? Valandria says, turning back to her. You understand what it says? Yeah, and it says it didn't smell any blood. Oh, fuck, Valandria states, realizing while she has made the sound of a creature, there is no blood to smell. And that knoll is starting to get more and more nervous. It begins to turn, seemingly wanting to head back to the cave to go tell someone else of this mysterious wounded animal. As the other 3 gnolls press forward, itching to sate their hunger, uncaring of the oddities of the scenario. We have to stop it, Valandria says. And with that, the ambush begins. The party descends on the 3 gnolls quickly, slashing, firing arrows, bolts of fire, and Tortuga sprinting past. Tortuga makes a dash towards the gnoll that was walking away, who upon seeing the threat begins to draw in its breath. As it does, Tortuga runs full speed and drives his fist into its solar plexus, once, twice, and a third time. Pulling the key from his body, he attempts to stun the creature. But as he strikes at its nerve center, as he pushes his key in to stun the beast, it reels back for a moment, seemingly almost stunned, but shakes its head as its resistances allow it to hold on to its muscles and control. It grins wide, smiles as its mouth opens in its impossibly wide maw, and it lets out a bellowing out into the valley. A laughing hyena-like call echoes up the walls of the cliff into the mine, and a response echoes back. A bolt of fire flies over Tortuga's shoulder, disappearing into the open maw of the bellowing gnoll and blowing out the back of its skull. As it falls to the ground, dead, the party look in the direction of the mine and watch as another group of gnolls begins emerging with bows, arrows, and ragged blades. The fight to get into this mine shaft is just beginning. And I believe that is an exciting spot as any for us to call an end to today's story time. I know we're a bit early, but unfortunately the fight through the mine is a rather protracted combat, one with several moments of intensity growing and fading in it, and I don't believe 10 minutes is enough time to really give it its full attention. So, we still have some time with us drawing ourselves to an end here. So, how are you all doing? What did you think of today's story time? Do any of you have any questions, clarifications, or curiosities you would like to have satisfied? Or, if nothing else, I'm down to just kind of chat with you guys for the next 15 minutes or so until we have to officially end the stream. After all, I would never end early on any of you fantastic people that show up and let me go on for hours on end, gushing about my own D&D campaign. RW Gemini, sorry I couldn't respond to your hi earlier, but hey, how you going? Glad you got to make it for some of our story time. So, How's everybody doing? Y'all, shaken awake by my fucking null sounds? Oh, God. Nah, I remember being in session trying to make null sounds on the fly sometimes, and some of them sounding good, some of them not really, Oh, damn. I was fully expecting them to tell Pharaoh to change their name if they don't like having the same name as The Rock. They are something. Thank you, V. I'm glad you found my null sounds to be something. uh, Actually, this might be a cool time to show off one of my homebrewed magic items to you all. Something talked about today. I think I've shown it off in a past stream before, but now that it's actually in the game, it might be something worth just showing off to you guys a little bit. So here is the Delver Stone, something I made that was inspired by a very powerful magical item called the Ioun Stone. These are magical items that can grant you bonuses to your AC, saving throws, attack throws, and a bunch of other things that are just kind of physically shown as a little rock orbiting your head. And I wanted to make something kind of interesting, like something based on that, like something that a low-level wizard tried to make to be like an Ioun Stone, but failed in many regards. So this is the Delver Stone, a pale imitation of the Ioun Stone. These magic stones are gifted with a series of simple enchantments, allowing them to operate as wondrously useful items. Their frequent confusion for and comparison to the Ioun Stone, however, leads them to be likened to fool's gold. While being worn, you may spend an action and have the stone perform one of the following. It can begin to glow with a soft yellow light, providing light for 15 feet and dim light for another 20. You can have them emit a beam of light in a 30-foot cone. You can have them reveal which way is north. You can have them return to your possession. The stone will return itself to you as directed. You can spend a counter to absorb the magic in the stone, granting 1d6 plus 1 temporary hit points. Or you can spend a counter to send the stone hurtling at a target within 30 feet, causing them to make a DC 18 dexterity saving throw. On a failure, they take 2 magic bludgeoning damage and are distracted by the stone, granting them disadvantage on their next attack roll, with advantage on the next attack roll against them. On a successful save, they take no damage and only gain disadvantage on their next attack roll. A useful little item that Rasmussen has been using since he bought it, but one that is not extremely powerful in any way, just rather useful. I don't have much to say other than I really enjoyed it and can't wait to see how this continues. Hell yeah, Canada Bacon. Thank you very much for saying that. I do love telling you guys story time and cannot wait to show you guys the entirety of the Knoll Mine and something hidden at the very back of it. Something small with a lot of potential value that my party was making jokes about all the way up to the point when they showed up. I don't know, man. Are there any other questions? We still got a good 5 minutes or so before I'll be breaking this up. So if there's anything at all any of y'all are curious about, wanting to know anything about the party members, about the overall, like, party strengths and weaknesses, if you want to know what's going on right now live in the campaign. After all, story times are actually a few months behind where the party actually is. Right now, the party has actually departed from Rawglyph for quite a while and has been working within an entirely different city for a very different goal already. I'm always happy to talk if you guys have any general D&D questions. If nothing else, the last thing we can do is, of course, just spend some time looking for someone to raid. Someone you guys like or would be interested in seeing. Someone with a lower viewer count, or anyone else talking about D&D or anything you all might be interested in. If any of you have any suggestions, now is also a good time to let me know so I can go ahead and start taking a look at different boys and girls who might be deserving of a little raid. Let's see, what do we have? Yuzu at 400. Oh, Iron Mouse is live at 8,000 peeps. That seems a bit big. Ooh, it is Saturday. We could do Saturday Batterday. Do any of you know Lethal Lucidity? That's someone we've rated a few times in the past. What are you doing? Oh, teamfight tactics. That could be fun. I don't know. Well, it seems you all are rather quiet at the end of stream. Understandable. I do hope my narrating voice is the reason for that, and nothing more insidious. But I suppose, if you all have no further questions, curiosities, comments, or anything else I could do for you with our short amount of time left, it might be best for me to simply send you all on your way to find entertainment elsewhere. I would like to thank you all for joining me this evening, listening to our Dungeons and Dragons story time, and for all hanging out and enjoying just a little bit of D&D. As I've said, I hope you all will be ready for next weekend when I start stepping up my stream schedule, given I have a bit of extra time off. And we might have an opportunity to get our revenge upon the Flug Knight in Dark Souls. I would like to thank you for the weekly entertainment you provide every Saturday. Hell yeah, Marcio. And yet, V, with that, I would like to wish you all a good night. I hope to see you all soon. And I hope you all had fun. With that, let's fucking go.